What's happening, folks? Welcome back to another video on the Vivaro. In this one, I'm going to be replacing the turbo on it because if you watch the other video on this van, the EGR cooler flap, the flap inside the cooler had broken off and I believe it's been sucked into the turbo. So I'm going to be stripping the DPF off at first, get the downpipe off, checking that is exactly what I think has happened because I've lost all boost pressure. I think the flap from the EGR cooler is pretty much been sucked into the turbo, and from what I've read online it knackers the turbine in the hot side of the turbo. So let's get cracked on and wish me luck. So I think what I'm going to be doing, just looking at this, I think I'm just going to take the subframe off, so it'll be wheels off, ball joints out, these brace bars are taken off both sides. And then I've already taken this engine mount off to try and get some movement in the engine, as you can see. I disconnect the steering rack from these nuts here, tie that up out the way, and then just drop the full subframe and get it out my road because there is not much room to get in about here. So at least if I get the subframe off, I can then move on to getting the DPF disconnected, and I've got plenty of room to work in. For the ball joints, I ended up just taking the 3 bolts off the wishbone and just left the ball joint still in the hub. Just a lot easier because sometimes the nuts can be quite stuck. But 3 bolts out, then it's onto the subframe mounting bolts to get that off, and then after a wee bit of trolley jack maintenance, it's time to lower it down, which by myself wasn't the easiest on the floor, but we got there in the end. Now that the subframe is out the way, we've got all this nice space to play in, so I can get into the turbo a lot easier. One thing I'm not so sure about is this alloy up here. I thought it was a mount, but it's not. It seems to, all the bolts seem to go in from down below. You can't get to the bolts from up top. So I have no idea what the story is with that, but I'm going to crack on, get these 2 flange nuts off the DPF, get the DPF disconnected there, get all the plumbing and whatnot undone, get this out the way, and then we shall get a bit of a better view into the turbo on the exhaust side of things. That was a total ball ache, but as you can see, I've snapped that stud. Even with heat that snapped, and then this stud here, it stripped the threads even with loads of heat. So once I get this off, I'll need to get them replaced and get new studs for it. But I think next, I've got no idea what any of this is. If anyone can educate me on what, there's a lambda sensor, an O2 sensor up there, plug here. I don't know what that is, I've never seen that before. So let us know in the comments, but I think what I'll do next is I'll try and get that off, the unknown item off of this flange here, and then that should just leave the turbo and the manifold. So I actually got my hand up in here to check for play on the turbo, on the bearing. There's no play, but when I span the impeller was seized, and when I span it backwards, I heard something drop in this side. So it's definitely been seized up by the flap that's here, so we'll need to see. I've now realised that block with the diesel injector in it is for the DPF regenerations, so that's just showing how long I've been out of the garage industry for, just a wee bit of trade fade there. But I end up getting the 2 nuts off for that, putting it out of the way off to the side, then onto the oil return and oil feed pipes, just getting them off, and then onto the nice rusty downpipe nuts as you would expect on a 14 plate van, but wee bit of heat, they came off no bother, and then it's up to the top. The last thing you would have seen me taking off is the bottom mount, the wee black three-piece mount. Not three-piece, but it had 3 bolts on it, sorry. So that was bolting onto the bottom of this, and then there's 2 13mm nuts which go here and there, and then that has now allowed this mount to be free, but I've no idea how you get it off, so I'll set the camera up and see if I can get that out. As you can see, with the blower motor housing all still in place, there's not very much room to get in about there, so I'm just taking all the wee 10, I think there was about 5 10mm bolts holding that on, so with that out of the way, there's plenty of room for me to get my big massive head in there. So I've taken the nuts off there. I've actually taken that stud out now, but the stud there, I just can't, there's not enough of a gap between this and the firewall, so I'm having to take the studs out, and then hopefully I can just lift it straight up and out, and then we can get to the top manifold bolts. Last but not least, the last 2 nuts and bolts to come off. Just a wee bit of heat on them, and voila, we have 1 turbo removed. Oh! There we have it. The culprit that's cost me near enough 500 quid on this van. Because I think I'll still go ahead and replace the turbo, even though it feels alright. You know, the bearings are sound. Where's my light? Bye. That is the flap that's meant to be on there. So new cooler. There's a video of me replacing the cooler, a separate video. So that's meant to be in there, not in there, just for science's sake. I want to open this up to check and see what the... Yep, we're definitely getting a new turbo now, because that is hush snapped. Like we said, we're just stripping the turbo down here for science's sake and the sake of the video, and with it all off now, lo and behold, the turbine is absolutely knackered. So nice to see that for the video's sake and for my own peace of mind. Time to get unboxing the new turbo. New turbo's finally delivered, so I'm just going to stick this into a time lapse. Whether I put the time lapse into the video or not, rebuilding it, who knows, but just going to get cracked on, hopefully get this built up by tonight. Turbo's all on and tight. It goes on a hell of a lot easier with new nuts and studs than it does coming off, but turbo's on and tight, gasket's fitted. Next up, I'm just going to go for this next flange here. I don't know what you call it, but we'll stick that flange on, get some sort of injector block bolted back onto the flange, and then fit the DPFs. Before we start the van, up here on the turbo core, just above where the pipes are, there's a wee blanking grommet, well not a grommet, sorry, but a wee blanking plug, like so. Just a wee Allen bolt, I'm not sure what size it is, I can't read that. But yeah, just take that out of that hole and then with our syringe we can prime the turbo up, so I'll get doing that just now. Okay, so I've got the EGR valve all built back up, the turbo's all on and primed up, and so I think I'm just going to try and start it just now. Just make sure there's no leaks or anything before I go and putting the subframe back on and putting the front end back on, just because we've had the coolant hoses and the oil returning feed pipes off. So we'll get it started up just now, and fingers crossed that it's all good. Oh, not bad at all. Obviously the intercooler and whatnot, it's not plumbed in yet, but sounding pretty sweet from up here. Check underneath for any oil leaks. Nah, sweet as a nut, man, sweet as a nut. Happy days. So I didn't prime the turbo, well, on camera. I did prime the turbo off camera, but I just put 2 syringes into that wee blanking plug in the turbo core, so I was just making sure there was no leaks round about the return pipe and the feed pipe for the oil for the turbo. So pretty good. I'm happy enough just to start throwing it all back together again. And there we have it, sports fans. Van all built back up. Let's get it out on the road and see what she's like. That is the Vivaro fixed. Initial reactions is it's driving better than it ever has. I've owned this van for over a year and a half, I think I've owned this for. It's my daily runner to and from work, heading down south and then back home, and it's never put a foot wrong until I was towing the new project for the channel. Broke down, lost all power, so it's driving better than it ever has the whole time I've owned it. And as you can probably see in the background, I've started converting it into a camper van using the stuff out my old camper. It's nowhere near finished yet, so there will be a couple of videos still to do on this van, and just getting it finished, ready to just jump in and go away for the weekend in. But I think that'll be all for this video now, since like I say, a job well done. I'm pretty chuffed with that. Just need to get a couple other bits done to this and it'll be all good and all finished. So thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and there'll be plenty more to come on this, I think. So yeah, thanks for watching.